The mind is an interesting place. It can destroy, it can create. I once read, man's mind may be likened to a garden which may be intelligently cultivated or allowed to run wild. So in my head is a garden. From the moment I wake up, even before I get out of bed, everything that happens is determined by what's flourishing in that garden. I once went for therapy and I was told something that sounded cliche, but now it kind of makes sense. She said, you can't stop birds from flying over your head, but you can stop them from making a nest on top of your head. I guess what she meant was, I can't prevent negative thoughts, but I can prevent myself from dwelling on them. Just like a garden, I can't prevent weeds from ever growing there, but I can uproot them when they do appear. Though for most of my life, I let weeds take center stage. Instead of talking, I kept silent. I let the negative thoughts flourish, and ultimately, the fruits of what was flourishing inside my head crept out in the open. Matthew 7:7 says, "Seek and you will find." What you allow to grow in your head eventually manifests. And I've always had this challenge where I'll think about the worst possible outcome in any given situation. Then when it happens, I complain, yet I was the one who opened the gates. I planted something negative, something I really didn't want to see, and I watered it daily, thinking about it constantly, feeding it, allowing it to grow. Galatians 6:7, do not be deceived. God can't be mocked. A man reaps what he sows, and the mind is a very fertile place for both good and evil to grow. That's my greatest battle, tending the garden in my head. I didn't know that everything I saw physically, whether positive or negative, were just fruits of things that I allowed to take root inside me. So I was constantly striving to change the environment around me, not knowing that nothing can change around me if nothing changes inside me. Michael Jackson said, for you to change the world, you have to start with the man in the mirror. Your world is a reflection of your image. You can't change the image, but you can change the object. The mirror isn't the problem. It's the most honest. It doesn't show you what you want to see. It shows you what's there to see. Now I understand why I was struggling, sitting, feeling bad about my circumstances. It's because complaining is easier than changing, because I can complain while seated, but for there to be change, action is needed. That's why people give up on being better, because even if you start planting the right seeds, there's still a period of waiting, watering, pruning, because change isn't an event, it's a process. But the challenge is humans mostly like fruits, so we stop watering before we see the results, opt for the familiar. But I've learned that my job is just to obey. God is in charge of the outcome. Mark 4:28. All by itself the soil produces grain, first the stalk, then the head, then the full kernel in the head. But then again, we have to be realistic. How do you plant seeds of joy when you're sad? How do you believe you'll get there when you don't have bus fare? How do you live on a promise with no sign? Ecclesiastes 11:4-5. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. As you do not know the path of the wind or how the body is formed in a mother's womb, so you can't understand the work of God, the maker of all things. If you've ever been in love, then you know that even if there's no sign, a promise is enough. If we have the capacity to believe humans that much, I don't think trusting the maker of humans can be that hard. Jesus said, blessed is he who has not seen, yet has believed. In summary, if life were a game, it would be about gardening. The question is, in the garden called your mind, what's growing?